The New York Giants are going back to the future and building up their roster to be competitive again. I'll explain exactly what I mean by that on today's Locked On Giants podcast, coming your way next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm your host, Patricia Treda, credential member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI, which is where you can find all of my written work. And as always, welcome on into my Blue Crew community members, my everydayers, my newcomers, and everybody in between. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. And today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. All right, Giant fans, we got a big show for you today. We're going to kick things off with a look of what I call Back to the Future. Basically, the Giants in building up the roster and trying to get back to being a competitive football team, being relevant again. They borrowed some lessons from past successful teams, and we're going to go down the list of some of them. And then in segments 2 and 3, oh, you're going to love this, folks. We've got Richie Bradshaw, host of Locked On Sun Devils. He is here to tell us all we need to know about New York Giants running back Cam Skattebo. I am so excited about this pick. I've got to tell you, he's probably one of my favorite picks. I haven't even met the guy yet. Oh, I'm going to love having him around in the locker room to talk to, watch him and whatnot. And after, speaking with Richie about this guy, you guys are going to love him. You are absolutely going to love him. So Richie's going to break down everything we need to know. And it was just a very fun interview to do. And that's going to be on segment 2 and segment 3 of today's show. That being said, let's get into segment 1. Now, it's interesting. Once the dust settled from, free agency and the draft, I went back and I looked at how general manager Joe Schoen put together the New York Giants roster. And I can't help but notice that there was a lot of similarities to how the better teams of recent Giant years, or maybe a couple of decades ago, how they were put together. And I wonder if perhaps, Schoen and, some of the earlier things he was doing when he first came in as GM, he realized they weren't working. So he kind of went back to the future, went back to the past, actually, to borrow some things that work for the Giants and other teams for that matter, in building up a roster. So I have a list here. The first thing that kind of stood out to me was the construction of the wide receiver group. Now, the top 3 receivers for the Giants, we know they're going to be Malik Nabers, Darius Slayton, and Wan'Dale Robinson. But what Schoen did in the offseason, not just, in the draft, or I should say the undrafted free agents, but also in free agency, he brought in taller guys, skyscrapers. Now, I have no idea how much these guys are going to see on offense as far as pass targets go. But you go back to the Eli Manning era, especially early on in Eli's career, and he had a couple of skyscrapers in Plaxico Burress and Amani Toomer. And that's kind of important that they brought in some of these taller receivers because, with Russell Wilson, the projected starting quarterback, Russell Wilson is under 6 foot tall. All right. So he's a little shorter than what you ideally like to see in a quarterback. So that means, if he's standing behind bigger offensive linemen and bigger defensive linemen, he might have trouble, believe it or not, seeing down the field. Well, if you have a tall skyscraper of a receiver on the field, that's like, a big help. So that was something that kind of stood out. Now, again, I don't think any of these taller receivers like, little Jordan Humphrey or Zach Pascal, guys who can also play special teams and will probably contribute more on special teams than they will in the offense. I don't think they're going to necessarily displace any reps that, Malik Nabers is going to get, or Darius Slayton or Wan'Dale Robinson. but I could see a world in which those guys get mixed in to the offense just to, get a taller guy on the field. Because again, Russell Wilson, he throws those moon balls, but it's sometimes, those moon balls, especially if you get a lot of air underneath them, they're ripe for the picking, for being picked off if you're not careful. So sometimes you want to throw the pass more on a rope than you do, on a rainbow. So that was something that jumped out at me. Another thing that jumped out at me is the pass rush, the way they're building up the pass rush. You think back to 2007 and 2011, the Giants were at least three deep in quality pass rushers. All right. 2007, they had Strahan, they had Umanura, they had Tuck. 2011, they had Tuck, Umanura, and JPP. So those guys got after the quarterback, made life easier for the defensive backfield. This year, the Giants have Thibodeau, they have Burns, they've added Abdul Carter, and let's not forget Chauncey Golston. And hey, if you want to throw in Dexter Lawrence, even though he's defensive line, why not? He's a pass rusher too. So the Giants' pass rush is as deep as it has ever been. And we're not talking, scrubs here. We are talking quality pass rushers. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, that's been missing if you think about it, especially if, like last year, we saw how when Kayvon Thibodeau was hurt, and even though Azeez Ojulari came in and did a decent enough job, it just wasn't quite the same. So now you've got a situation where if Shane Bowen can figure out how to use all these guys at once, good luck to the opposing team and trying to figure out how they're going to defend all these guys or who they're going to double up, because there is no answer. There is no answer. And it's just going to be a beautiful sight to watch these guys getting after opposing quarterbacks and harassing them. All right. Another reminder from the past, if you will. Russell Wilson. They have an experienced quarterback who has won a Super Bowl. So he's been there, done that. He's been to the top of the mountain. Russell Wilson, of course, the quarterback, or projected to be the starting quarterback for the Giants now. He, at least that's what Brian Daboll is saying, that he will be the starter. So, you want to have a quarterback who has been there, done that. Now, I know a couple of people have asked me, well, what about Jackson Dart? Should Jackson Dart, get a chance to start? Should he get a chance to compete for the job? There's going to be time for Jackson Dart to eventually take over that role. The last thing I think the Giants want to do is rush him into the starting lineup. That's kind of what they did with Daniel Jones, if you remember, back in 2019. Daniel Jones was rushed in before he was ready. Back then, Pat Shurmur said, oh, yeah, he's ready. Don't worry about it. I'm sorry. The play showed otherwise. He wasn't ready. So you work with Jackson Dart, and make no mistake, they are going to do a lot of work with Jackson Dart, working on any deficiencies he has in his game, getting him comfortable. But remember, the Giants are playing a very difficult schedule of opponents this year. The last thing you want to do is potentially jeopardize Jackson Dart's confidence. So bring him along, let him work out some of the bugs in this game. He will probably see a lot of snaps in the preseason. I can't see why they wouldn't play him. And just keep developing him. But you've got to be patient with him. All right. You can't just take the egg and expect the chick to come right out of the egg after it's been, laid by the hen. You got to let it develop a little bit. And when it does, it's going to be a nice looking, chick, if you will. So Jackson Dart, he will eventually step in. Now, will it be later in the year? It could be. It depends on, how things go, if there are injuries or whatnot. But the plan, as I've been saying all along with Jackson Dart, is to wait until next year when he will probably be further along and ready to step in. There's no crime in doing that. Patrick Mahomes did it. Jordan Love sat for a while. There's been plenty of quarterbacks who have gone on to be successful starters who have sat for the first year or maybe year and a half or whatever the case may be. So really, no rush in getting Jackson Dart out onto the field. The last point I want to make regarding similarities to what the Giants have done in the past when they were successful to what they're doing now is they have brought back Thunder and Lightning. And of course, I'm talking about the running back duo. All right. So the drafting of Cam Skattebo out of Arizona State. Love, love, love that pick. All right. Pairing him up as the Thunder with Tyrone Tracy as the Lightning. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's definitely the second coming of Brandon Jacobs and Ahmad Bradshaw, who, you could say in recent years is the original Thunder and Lightning. But it has the potential to be to have that kind of impact, to have an impact where Skatebo, who is the beefier running back, the between the tackles guy, can pound the defense into submission, and then throw in a little dose of Tyrone Tracy, who's the quicker, kind of scat back type guy, and let them wear out these guys to where the opposing defenses, by the time the fourth quarter rolls around, they are just dragging. So it's gonna come now. I don't think Cam Skattebo is going to open up the season as the running back two. I do think that role is still going to be Devin Singletary's, but I could see by the end of the year there be a shift, just like there was a shift last year. Devin Singletary was initially RB1, Tracy was like RB3, and by the end of the year, Tracy was RB1, and Singletary had dropped to RB2. So, I could see that changing as the year goes on. So that's going to be a beautiful thing to see, because the Giants really haven't had a Thunder and Lightning running game in quite some time. And it's high time they brought it back, because it worked. It does work. Okay. And it's going to be really fun to watch. All right. Speaking of Thunder and Lightning and Cam Skattebo, coming up next, we're going to hear from Locked On Sun Devils host Richie Bradshaw, who is going to tell us all we need to know about Cam Skattebo. Again, this was a fun interview. I think you guys are going to love it. We had a good time, and Richie's got a nickname that he's actually hoping catches on here in the New York area for Cam Skattebo. So that's coming up right after this. Hey, Giant fans, ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's so easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so that you stop managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. And as promised, we're going to start taking an in-depth look at some of the New York Giants 2025 draft picks. And up first is my personal favorite pick we're going to talk about. He is, I'm going to let Richie Bradshaw, host of Locked On Sun Devils, who joins me. I'm going to let him tell you the nickname that has been given to New York Giants running back Cam Skattebo. First off, Richie, welcome on into the program.
I am happy to be here. And when you told me we were talking about Cam Skattebo, I said, yeah, I got 15 hours to talk about him, and that might not be enough.
All right, Richie, how about we start off by you telling us the nickname for Cam Skattebo?
I have coined it myself on Locked On Sun Devils. I like to call him the people's running back. And it's very simple. He runs the ball. He catches the ball. He passes the ball. He punts the ball. And he's your mom's favorite player. He's Cam Skattebo.
Okay.
And of course, my shirt, Cam Skattebo saved my life. He is one of the most important players that Arizona State Sun Devils football has had in the last decade, maybe even longer. He is legitimately idolized in Tempe, Arizona. He will, 2 seasons played, he will end up in the Athletic Hall of Fame for this program.
Wow, very impressive. And he did all that stuff. Wow. Does he do dishes too?
He probably does dishes. I'm pretty sure that if you need anything out of him, you might be able to do it. I'm going to see if he can do some landscaping because I got some weeds I got to pull.
Oh gosh, that's amazing. It's funny, Richie, hearing from him, there was just something about his voice, the enthusiasm. Just, I said to myself, I'm going to like talking to this student. I'm going to like seeing the student in the locker room. Richie, let's start there. The enthusiasm, the type of person he is. I mean, what can you tell Giant fans about his character and what he brings to a locker room?
I can tell you he's got big time character. And by the time he gets really comfortable with this team, he will become a vocal leader for the Giants in the locker room, for the running backs room, and potentially the offense or the team. He is a very, very passionate guy. He was not recruited out of high school. He was a 0-star. He had one offer from Sacramento State. He balled out there, enters the transfer portal, comes to Arizona State. They were a 3-win program, first year of the Kenny Dillingham era. He has a pretty good season. You'll look at the numbers, you'll be like, he didn't rush for 800 yards. And I would tell you, like, you got to watch the games because he was better than that. And then you see this past season, there's a reason he finished 5th place in Heisman voting. He was so good at everything he did. But it all comes back to his dedication to his craft. In between the 2023 and 2024 season, Kenny Dillingham sat down with Cam and he said, look, if you're trying to get to the pros, we've got to get you like ready. We have to cut you down on your weight. We have to start doing training and all sorts of stuff. And he did that. He applied everything. And now he's going to the pros. And it's that kind of dedication and character that separates guys from the ones that are more physically gifted and talented and whatnot. And that was something a lot of people were going through the process. He's not fast enough. He's not big enough. And I hear that, but sometimes guys are just good at football. And we're still seeing players like Bucky Irving and Kyron Williams, who he got compared to, that are having just as much success. Cam is got the dedication to be able to get to that point. Giants fans should be very excited about a player who's not satisfied with being good enough.
Richie, one of the things I've read about him is that he is a tough runner. He picks up the yards after the catch. He's not afraid of contact. In fact, I think he was described as a contact magnet. Is that something, I mean, that's good, but it can also be a concern because you take a beating at that position as it is. But when you're a contact magnet, that could, double your chances, if you will, for injury. So that being said, do you think he needs to cut back on that a little bit? Or do you think he's at a good enough level to where, he's smart about it?
I think that's going to be up to him once you get at the next level and you do start embracing the hits of professional linebackers and safeties, because he played Power 4 competition in the Big 12, and then he played Texas in the Peach Bowl, which that's a lot of SEC talent that's going to the NFL in the future. So it'll be up to him to kind of get a feel for, am I going to be able to continue to put guys in the dirt, or do I need to adjust my game? And there is some stuff that he can do because he is a contact runner. In fact, the contact balance with him blows my mind. If Giants fans are looking for the highlights, go to the Utah game. Look at his 50-yard touchdown against the Utes. He should have gone down, and he puts his hand down and maintains his balance, and the announcers are going crazy about it. It's insane the way that he just moves off of blocks and just absorbs them and pushes them right back with some kind of kinetic injury, like he's got a Black Panther suit on from Marvel. Like, it's phenomenal, but he will need to see how he adjusts to much bigger, stronger, faster, athletic players at the next level. The good news is he has shown the ability to be a one-cut runner. So if he finds a hole, he can plant his foot and just go to that next side. So maybe he doesn't have the game-breaking speed, but he is a smart runner who can identify holes for an offense. He will be able to have that much of an adjustment for himself.
Is he better between the tackles, outside the tackles, or can he just do it all?
He definitely can do it all, but I would tell you that at the next level, I think we want to see him grow the confidence running between the tackles and figuring out, again, like how much contact can I take Am I going to be able to be the bruiser and put my shoulder down? Or should I be trying to make some guys miss? Anything like that. But I do think that at the next level, he's going to have far more success between the tackles than outside. And another part of that is he's just not giftedly fast. He's somewhere between low 4.5s and high 4.6s for his 40 time, depending on what you clock him. So he's not going to outrun a lot of guys to the outside. But if you just north and south, the shortest distance is a straight line, he will be able to have some success there.
You mentioned at the start that he does it all. Now, that brings to mind for some jack of all trades, master of none. Is what particularly does he do really well, and what does he still need to really work on?
So we'll start with the work on, and there's some ball security issues. Now, I don't see him as like this guy that's consistently like putting the ball on the ground or you're worried about every time he's touching it. There is my question again of how you adjust to the next level. And with a ball security issue like that, if he's trying to adjust to big hitters, is that going to be a continued problem? That will be something to monitor. But otherwise, when it comes to the jack of all trades and a master of none, I think that there's two things that Cam does very, very well. It's absorbing contact and maintaining balance and catching the football. He is an exceptional pass catcher. All 4 seasons of his collegiate career, 2 with Sacramento State, 2 with Arizona State, he was double-digit yards per reception. You're happy with a running back that gets about 7 yards per catch. He was around 11 to 12 in his career. At Arizona State, he had multiple 60-yard touchdown receptions. He can get it out of the backfield. He can beat you deep. Again, if Giants fans are wanting some examples of this, in the Peach Bowl, 4th quarter, he takes a little wheel route deep, and he's held by the safety, Michael Tafe or something like that. I can't remember how to pronounce it. He's being held. He catches this ball. He's dragged down to the ground. His helmet flies off of him, and he gets up, and he starts mean-mugging the crowd. And if you're not sure who he's mean-mugging, it's the Texas Longhorns student section. He's got swagger and attitude, and he is a great pass catcher. So if it takes some time to adjust to running outside the tackles or anything like that, just get him the ball on a little swing route, maybe have him run a route or something. But you will have a great pass catcher from day one.
Hey, Giant fans, the NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on all the action. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com today and claim your $250 in bonus bets. What about the ideal blocking scheme for him, I should say? Is he better, behind, a zone blocking, gap? Where does he really excel as far as, putting his talents to the best use?
Honestly, I don't really know if I have a safe answer with that because he's seen so many different offensive schemes between Arizona State, where he had 2 different offensive coordinators in 2 years, and then his time at Sacramento State and whatever he was doing in high school, that I don't really know if there is a specific blocking scheme that he really excels at or is not good at. What I'll say is if he's able to manage to find a sliver of daylight, he's someone that falls forward, right? We look at Frank Gore in his prime, always fell forward. Very rarely was he tackled for a loss. Cam is someone that can earn the hard yards. And there were some slugfests this year where Cam was averaging under 3 yards a carry, but ASU gave him the ball 25 times because they knew that he was going to be the focal point of the offense. So maybe he gets to the next level and he finds a little more comfort with one scheme than the other. But the one thing that I am sure of with him is he just falls forward. So, maybe there is a game where he only has 50 rushing yards, but he may be someone that is able to help control the clock and convert the third and shorts and get the first downs for the Giants. All that good stuff. It's just a matter of finding the tiniest spot, getting 1 yard that you need, or getting a chunk. But it'll be really interesting to see how that gets dialed up because, Brian Daboll has not been a phenomenal head coach, but he remains a very good offensive mind. And he's going to look at a guy like Cam Skattebo and go, I know how to use you in all sorts of different ways.
One area that we don't talk about a whole lot with young running backs, and we've got to talk about it because it is important. It's their ticket onto the field. Pass pro. How is Cam in that area?
Not bad. They used him quite a bit for route running and stuff like that. The thing that I love about him is he's just got that aggressive mindset with him. When he's on the field, he thinks he's the biggest, baddest dude out there. 5'10", 215, 5'10" in cleats, 215. He is not the biggest guy out there, but he's got that attitude of, I'm going to plant you in the dirt. You're going to look like a Looney Tune character with an outline in the turf of whatever it looks like when he puts you down there. So he was used a lot in passing situations, but I know that I have the confidence that with the refinement to get him there, he will be able to get there. But I do think that's something that is going to need a little bit of improvement because he was just used so much in the passing game that you really didn't have him sit in the backfield too much. He was always doing something for you.
Richie, I always like to ask this question before the rookies come in for mini camp. And, it might come across as you're doing my job for me, but help me out here. What's one thing, if I were, obviously I want to talk to Cam when he comes in at
You'll
some
love
point.
him.
I'm sure I will. I already do for some reason. But anyway, what's a good topic you think? Maybe something somebody doesn't know about him, an intangible. What's something that, if I ask him this question, he's just going to go on and just explode and really give a good effort, a good story, if you will.
I think as biased as this may come across, if you were to ask him about the culture building that he experienced at Arizona State and how integral he was to all of that, he would be gushing about the players he was surrounded with. He would be gushing about the coaches that he got to work with. He'd be gushing about his quarterback, Sam Levitt, and the connection they had. But he took a lot of pride in turning around a program that could not have been in a worse situation. I won't bore everyone with the details because it'd take forever, but he comes to this program, he turns it around quickly. He's one of the biggest reasons why, and he will not be the person that gloats about it. He will spend his time talking about everyone else. That is a team first player before anything else.
And then finally, Richie, I know this probably isn't fair, but I've got to ask it anyway. Is there a running back that either past or present that he reminds you of most of?
I love Kyron Williams. I think that is 100% the player that I see with him. He's not Toby Gerhart. He's not Peyton Hillis. He's not Mike Allstott, anything like that. The obvious dots that we can connect. He reminds me of Kyron Williams. He's not beating you in a foot race, but he can beat you in many different ways, and he's got a nose for the end zone. He's going to score a lot of touchdowns. So Giants fans should be very excited. I think him and Tyron Tracy are going to be a really good combo. And I think Cam Skattebo, before the end of his rookie deal, is going to be the number one running back on that team. I mean, I could tell you all-pro number one in the nation. That's very biased. I do think by the end of his rookie deal, he's RB1 on that depth chart.
Well, the Giants haven't had a legitimate thunder and lightning combo, I want to say, really since Bradshaw and Jacobs. Which was years ago. Tracy, I look at him as kind of the lightning, and I think Skatebo can be the thunder. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. And what's so funny is, he's not built like Jacobs at all. He's not 6'4", 6'5", 250, but you're going to feel it. When you make contact with him, you're going to feel every bit of that energy. That's a bowling ball in Cam Skattebo.
I'm glad you said that because we've been referring to him as a human bowling ball. So
yes.
It sounds like we got it pegged correctly.
Yes.
last but not least, Richie, anything you want me to pass along to Cam when he comes up?
You just throw out that nickname for him. Ask him if he's a big fan of the People's running back, and let me know what he thinks about it. I've been trying to get that ball rolling for about a year and a half, and now I got an NFL audience that will hopefully use it for me. He's the
All right.
best. He does everything, and he's your mom's favorite player. Get that jersey. I will be getting his jersey when the number gets announced.
Well, make sure you wait until the regular season because you know how numbers can change. So
that is true.
But I have a feeling he's going to emerge as a fan favorite. It's just something about him. I can't put my finger on it. It's just, and just something that when I saw the videos and we heard him on the conference call, I was like, oh, I'm going to love this guy.
You will.
And I've covered this team a long time, and I'm like, his exuberance almost reminds me. And I'm dating myself here, but I go back to many years. It's almost like a Phil McConkey. And I'm trying to think of somebody a little bit more recent because I know I have people in my audience who maybe don't remember the 1980s, but Phil McConkey was one of those do-all enthusiastic. He was a receiver, but he was like a little engine that could, if you will. So
maybe you could go. Oh, who was the Jets receiver from the 90s? It wasn't Wesley Welker. It was something along those lines where
not Keyshawn, right?
What was that?
It's not Keyshawn, was it? Keyshawn Johnson?
No, he was a smaller guy who just overlooked and everything, and he was just able to get the job done. And that's the way I see Cam, is like a lot of people are going to overlook him. He's not the fastest. He's not the strongest on the field, but he might be the best player on the field because he's just good at football. And he's got that mindset. He keeps track of everyone that doubts him.
All right. Maybe a Greg, maybe now that I think about it, maybe a Greg Camella. He at least close. I mean, he was a fullback in the 90s, but he was Tiki Barber's running mate. So maybe, something like that. But I'll give it some thought and I'll let you know. I'll let you know who he ultimately ends up reminding me of. But right now, I've got to say, Richie, I love the guy. Haven't even met him yet. And I just know he's going to be a hit with the fans.
He is. He will be a fan favorite very, very quickly.
For sure. All right, Richie, listen, I appreciate you coming on. He is Richie Bradshaw. He is the host of Locked on Sun Devils. Please, Giant fans, make sure you check out all of our college hosts. We have hosts for just about every college program, and they don't just do football. They do baseball, the transfer portal, the other sports. They probably work harder than we do here on the NFL channel. So do check them out. Do support them. Richie, I want to thank you for coming on. Giant fans, want to thank you for tuning in. Always a pleasure. Make sure you keep it here all week long. We'll have more guests on to talk about the draft class. We'll talk about some other stuff leading up to the rookie minicamp, which is a week from this weekend coming up, and a whole lot more. So we'll see you again tomorrow, Giant fans. Have a good one.